Hello, and welcome to the Meta Women podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay the Boss Boss. Together, we're going to have conversations about what it's like to be a woman in the gaming industry. From struggle to success, we're covering it all. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today. I think she's going to be a really fresh perspective to the show. Anna Iorio is currently finishing her degree at Southern Methodist University in Texas. In addition to a busy class load in engineering, management, and information systems, Anna is SMU's Esports Club president, which is going to be so fun to talk about for us that have been long out of college. Anna, welcome to the show. To start, please feel free to introduce yourself and give a couple sentences of background to our audience.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name's Anna, as Lindsay introduced myself. I am a senior management science major here at SMU, and I guess my favorite games right now would be Overwatch and League of Legends. And also in my free time, I do a lot of sewing and
That's so fun.
3D modeling and stuff like that. It's fun.
Oh, cool. 3D modeling is sort of like gaming for professionalism. So
Yeah.
I get that. Do you watch Overwatch League at all? Just out of curiosity.
I do a little bit, like a little bit with my team. But I don't follow any team religiously. Like with everything switching to Overwatch 2, it'll be really interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm hoping that brings in more fans. I tried to watch a couple matches and honestly, it was just not that fun to watch.
It's so confusing. It's even gonna get more confusing because now we won't even be able to get to play on the patch they're playing.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. But anyways, that aside, I'm glad to meet at least someone who's a fan of the game. I know people who have tried it, but they have really cool characters. I just never could get down with the motions. But
Yeah.
anyways, I would actually love to start with an article that I recently saw on your LinkedIn profile, which was a profile of you and other women in esports for the Dallas Morning News. And I unfortunately couldn't quite get through the paywall there, but from what I could quickly scroll and glean, a lot of it was about the toxicity and kind of the environment that you and a lot of your other women gamers deal with. And the part that I did see was that it was so harsh that you usually turn off your headphones and mic during gaming. So it's been a little bit since that article was published, and obviously we're in a pandemic world and more people are gaming. There's been new games released. Every year the gaming landscape kind of changes. But how do you feel about kind of the thoughts you shared in that article and where the environment is at today? And has anything gotten changed, or has anything changed for the better or for the worse, or what's it been like?
It's been slightly better since that article was published. I play a lot less Overwatch now than I used to, solo queuing at least. I play more with the team environment. Of course, my team's not going to harass me in the game. But I do see more women now in my Overwatch games. And a lot of times I just don't want to turn on my mic. It's not worth it. A lot of the time, especially in quick play, in competitive, you do need to have some communication in higher ranks, or else you're kind of just intentionally throwing the game for your team.
Right.
And so that's kind of a conflict of interest. Do I talk? Do I not? Most of the time I do, and then I'll always just mute myself or mute everything. The whole you can just click a button and mute them all. But then League of Legends doesn't even have a voice chat, which is really interesting. And people just text, flame you in the chat. And I don't really mind the flame. I don't really mind if someone's calling me bad because I'm doing bad. That's totally understandable. But just when it brings in my gender or aspects of me that are more personal, that's when there's no arguing with that.
No, would you say, since League of Legends has sort of a different way of moderating and they do use the chat, is there one that you prefer over another? Can you talk a little bit about the pros and cons of not having voice versus having voice even as an option?
I think in a game like Overwatch, you need to have a voice chat because there's no ping system. I don't know if you play League. Basically, you can on your mouse, you can say, I need help, or they have vision here, or you can communicate without words, which is really nice. And people send in the chat certain stuff like they need, and you can also ping people like positions, and like if someone died and they're like the timer is on certain objectives, you can ping all of that really easily, and so that,
Mhm.
like, you don't even need to talk. But in Overwatch, you can't do. There's no ping system. You can't do any of that.
Right.
So you're either typing, which you have to stand still and type, and you're not playing the game, or you just talk. And there's no. I guess Apex is kind of a happy medium. I don't know if you've ever played Apex, but there you can
Watched a
talk.
lot of Apex, yeah.
Yeah, there's a ping system in Apex,
Mhm.
and
So
it's really good.
do you think something like the ping system would help with the environment in general, or is that like a league kind of specific way
I
of
think
doing
it could
things?
help. It could help people that don't want to talk
Mhm.
communicate, and they can not want to talk for any reason. Um, and I do wish there was a ping system in Overwatch, but at the same time, if you've ever watched Overwatch League,
I
there's a
know.
billion things on the screen at one
I know.
time, and it's already confusing. And adding one more thing probably just isn't the best move.
God. Yeah, that's true. Maybe Overwatch has a little bit of work to do before the ping system is kind of a
Yeah.
reality, but has there been any tools you've kind of gleaned over the years or ways you've tended to adapt to the environment in order to kind of avoid some of the situations you've talked about aside from choosing not to speak, which is an kind of a obvious one.
I
Yeah.
usually will just be like, why would you say that? I try and, like, if it's like not very bad, if it's like a little jab, like I played, it's usually Apex now. I think I've been kind of
Mhm.
like, I solo keep Apex all the time. And, if you're playing good, they don't really say anything. But if like you're struggling or whatever, and they like try and harass you, I usually will try and ask them a question, try and get a dialogue going.
Right.
And it's not successful most of the time. Usually they just call you a bitch. That's the classic.
Yeah. You're
Go
like,
back to the
great.
kitchen. You're a bitch. We're losing because we have a woman.
Yeah.
Those are the top three.
I wish that that was sort of different across industries, but at least we have that going for us. There's a
Yeah.
consistency
Like,
across everything.
get some better insults.
A little more creativity would be
More
appreciated.
creativity. But I do think
Yeah.
that so if you only have like one woman on your team, if you're playing, I guess Valorant, I used to play some Valorant. If you only have one
Mhm.
woman on your team, they're kind of, and everyone's like ganging up on her. They're kind of getting the brunt of it. But if you have two, you can kind of use that to shift the dynamic, because then you got
Gotcha.
like support system.
Do you happen to find that some of the newer released games, this is a question I've asked before on this
Hmm.
podcast, but I wonder your perspective as someone who's like, who plays them a lot. Some of the newer released games have like a better or an easier time building a less toxic environment just because they're not dealing with,
Yes.
10, 12, 20 years of baggage.
Yes, absolutely. I think
Okay.
games like Call of Duty and Halo, like
Mhm.
those are the word. Like, I play a little bit of Halo. It's awful. I'm bad at it because I didn't
Mhm.
grow up with Halo. People
Right.
forget that people have been playing Halo for over a decade, like since they were 5 years old. And I just started playing tonight,
Mhm.
and it's just all that baggage, especially with Call of Duty. It's so bad. Like Warzone is
Yeah.
unplayable for me. It actually is.
Huh. I mean, that's yeah. That
It's
does seem like a cultural like it's so much easier to start from the ground up because obviously, Riot made League of Legends and Valorant, but I do know that the rules starting off in Valorant were so much more strict.
hmm
And they have voice moderation, which is a whole like bucket of worms
yes.
in and of itself. I mean, I don't want to get into like the privacy debates there and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's just interesting to think about, games that were released so long ago and have been traditionally marketed to a male audience. It seems like it's so much harder to crack into those and feel comfortable. Whereas things like very recently released, like Apex, Overwatch, Valorant, it's easier to maybe
Yeah. Because it's
have a
like,
positive experience.
I like games where it's like, I like games that have women characters, obviously, because like I want to play
Mhm.
like as the sexy woman with like Loba. She has like the
I
boots
was
and
gonna
the
say you want to be Loba.
heels.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. I love playing her because it's like,
Uh-huh.
she's so cool.
Mhm.
And I think like that's like a start, because it's like you have a game that's just like just a bunch of guys being dudes running around. I don't want to play that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and the
Like,
world needs more of guys being dudes type environments. So we don't
yeah.
have enough of those.
We
Anyways,
don't
I'm
even
just
know. Yeah.
yeah, totally joking.
No,
Um,
you're
yeah, well, I'm glad that you brought up actually character representation because I'm definitely not what I would consider a hardcore gamer. I watch a lot of games and I play a lot of hyper casual games that, it's not character based, so it's pretty easy for it to be gender neutral.
hmm
Um, but I'm happy to know one of the things the game industry always pushes, I feel like, is we have better representation in these games now by adding a woman character. However, a lot of them are sometimes still designed not with women in mind, I feel like.
hmm
So I'm glad to hear that some of the games, like some of the characters have been resonating with you. Hopefully that means it's sort of a step in the right direction in terms of actually including a woman presence in these games.
Yeah. I
And how
definitely
have you
see. Yeah.
how have you seen a change as you've been playing for years now?
Cause like originally it was funny you say that because like Overwatch was the first shooter like I ever played on PC. Like
Mhm.
I used to play Call of Duty on like Xbox when I was like 12. I remember
Who didn't? Yeah.
I had to beg my parents for an Xbox. They were like, that's for boys. Like, why do you want an Xbox? Why do you want to play Call of Duty? Like, you literally play as like a military guy and you shoot people and you have an RC car that like blows people up. They're like, this is not appropriate for our daughter. And I was like, please, I want to play it. And they're like, fine. So I had an Xbox. I played Black Ops 2. That was like the first game I had. And then I played Destiny. And I was really into Destiny. And you can play like it's like a
Oh,
character
yeah?
creation game. You can like
Mhm.
create I had like a little like woman I played as. That was great. And then Overwatch was like I like moved over to PC and I was like, Overwatch, like these characters, I like the design, they have like nice
Right?
characters. I like the design. I like the art style and like back in 2016 when that game came out, they were doing so much marketing and promotional material and all the cinematics like really sold the game for me.
So, well, that makes me happy to hear that, like, I guess sometimes I'm not sure if the inclusion actually matters to gamers. So I'm glad to hear that that's not true. And that's just one step a lot of companies have been taking. But do you feel like companies are doing enough, or what are some sort of areas of improvement you see? I think there's a lot of obvious news stories here, but
Yeah.
I would rather know from your perspective as a gamer, as someone who's been getting into shooters and playing shooters now,
hmm
like what would make you feel more comfortable? What do you want to see in the industry change, or what do you want to see these bigger publishers do to kind of aid that
I
growth?
I really want publishers to just like take a stance like no harassment, like kind of what
Mhm.
Riot does, like racism, sexism, like xenophobia, all that, just like insta ban, like insta two
Mhm.
weeks, first time. I don't remember what the second penalty is for league, but it's like you say like if they like you say like a slur or anything, just ban right off the bat, and like no leniency on that. Like you should get banned if you call someone a slur. Like
Mhm.
it's a like you can't go on the street and just call people. I mean you can, but like you're gonna be
Nobody likes you.
no one likes it. Like it's a private company. They should take a stance against it.
So
Uh,
then do you see more like sort of it's content moderation, voice moderation stuff being critical there?
yeah, um, definitely like a hard text filter. Um,
Gotcha.
at the very least, I know there's like differencing opinions on the voice moderation for Valorant, and
Mhm.
it's depending on how you look at it, like it's Big Brother watching over you for sure. But at the same time, if someone's like being overly harassive in the voice chat, that's not healthy for your game.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is a whole. I mean, content moderation is such a
Yeah.
nationwide like sticky issue, not just in gaming. So it's
Yeah.
hard to. I don't think you and I are gonna like solve the problem here today.
No, for sure not. Especially with like
um,
all of the internet in general. Just
exactly. So
yeah.
yeah, I wasn't. It's good to know that you think that things like bans and heavier moderation would actually have an impact. How that gets implemented is not a story for you and me. I
Yeah, for
think is
sure.
where we're living. Yeah.
Um really back on characters. I do think something like I wish that more companies would do is just like do like more diverse like body types, of course, like different like ethnicities represented. Like that's why I really like Apex, is because
Hmm.
there's like every character like feels unique and different, and like doesn't feel like a copy and paste of someone else, and they all like I really like it. Everyone has their own style.
That seems like such a natural thing to incorporate. I guess it's surprising that this hasn't happened sooner,
Hmm.
just because adding a little interest to the characters just makes them more playable in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true for you, but it's the same thing as waking up and choosing something different to wear or choosing something different to eat or I mean just having the same style over and over and not kind of incorporating
Yeah.
all of these other things just doesn't seem like a economically viable strategy even.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that some games like Valorant, people are like, well, why aren't different, like, why are all the girls skinny? And why are all the guys like super jacked? And I know that in Valorant, at least, they are trying to have them all fit in the same player model so that hitboxes
Mm.
don't change. But
Mhm.
even in those limitations that that game sets for itself, they're still like incorporating different characters in there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's ways to do it, I get you. So,
Hmm.
just to shift gears a little bit, it'd be great to hear what the esports college scene is like. And as we talk about the college esports landscape, I want to just prime the audience with some numbers. There was an article published by the Associated Press this past March, so March of 2021, slightly outdated but still pretty relevant. It looked at esports scholarships in 27 public American schools and male gamers held 90.4% of roster spots and received 88.5% of scholarship funds, even though, as we know, 41% of US gamers are female and that number is growing. So I do want to be mindful that this is a portion of schools, they have to offer esports funding, and that esports funding itself is becoming more mainstream, but it's not as widely available as things like sports funding. So items like Title IX and equal funding acts and all of that aren't necessarily at play here. And it's not necessarily, I don't want to place the individual blame on any university team or program. Um, so there's definitely a couple caveats, but it is safe to say that the experiences of women in the gaming industry back up the experience among collegiate gamers. So as the president of the Esports Club, I would love to hear, first of all, about what your club's all about, like what you guys do together, what that looks like. Esports clubs are definitely a relatively new phenomenon on campuses. And then what responsibilities you take on as president and how you think about inclusivity in those responsibilities.
Okay, so a little bit about my club is the Svu Esports Club is both for competitive gamers and then more casual gamers. So it's like a multifaceted club in that sense. We have we do like manage the teams all of ourselves. We don't have a coach. We have an advisor, but it's all student ran and led, the teams. So we have like a League of Legends team, Overwatch, two Overwatch teams, Valorant team, Dota team, Rocket League team, Hearthstone team, and a CS:GO team. It's a
Mhm.
lot, and we're always trying to like add more teams, just when there's interest. But those teams compete in tournaments against other universities. We do have
Neat.
like that varsity status because we are technically an intramural sports club on our campus.
Oh, cool.
So like the intramural sports director, is like our point of contact. So we can
Mhm.
compete in those tournaments with those like schools that get actual esports funding because we're still like not
Gotcha.
at that level where we get
Mhm.
like school like just throws money at us and we have like a space.
One day.
One day we will hopefully, but that's not really up to us anymore.
Yeah.
And then also on the more casual side, I've been really like trying to expand that lately, because I do think that if you want to be a more inclusive club, you need to cater to all types of gamers. So my favorite event we have for like the casual gamers is we have monthly game nights where we played
Mhm.
Among Us last week and it was a blast. So like games like that where they're cheap and everyone can play together, we'll try and do that like one or two times a month.
Gotcha.
And then
Yeah.
also, um, people will just like ask to play games with each other, like in the channels and like ping in our Discord. And then I have like a bi-weekly event and it's called Gamer Book Club. So it's like imagine like a book club, but instead of reading a book, you play a video game. And then we all meet outside, like on the lawn of our campus, and we sit in a circle. And sometimes I bring snacks, and we like talk about the game, and it's really fun. It's just like an in-person event. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a cool idea to get people playing different games. I think that it's so easy to get stuck in a rut or like have a massive
Hmm.
Steam library and not get to
Hmm.
anything. Or, I mean, there's new games released every day, so it's hard to
Hmm.
keep up. So, how do you guys pick games? Who gets to
I
pick?
people I get final say. It's like my
Oh,
event, but I do take
yeah.
suggestions. So I
Props to
remember
being the president,
someone,
I suppose.
I guess someone like bribed me. He was like, "Can we play Halo for our game? Like the Halo games are like $5 now." And I'm like, "Sure, we can play Halo." I'll bring canes. Don't worry. I'm like, "Okay, we can play Halo." So we played Halo, and I was like not too jazzed about it because I'm not the biggest Halo fan. But it was fun.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it. It was good to like hear them all talk about Halo lore for 45 minutes. We've also played Frog Fractions. We played Journey, Stardew Valley,
Oh,
um,
classics.
classics. We did like and over breaks. I try to assign a longer game.
Mhm.
So I don't know what game I'm going to assign. I try and keep it under $20. So if there's like a sale, we'll pick up something
Right.
like a little bit bigger. Oh, we
I
played
like that you
Plague
say assign.
Innocence too.
That's very, assign a
Yeah,
game is very professorial of you.
yeah. It's very. We're playing this. No
Yeah,
choice. We're playing this.
right.
Um, but it's fun.
Final
It's
grades are due
fun.
at this time. Yeah, that's funny. That's such a cool idea, though. I think, like, adding variety is so important because it's so easy to get stuck. Um, can you talk a little bit about I mean, because I think that you mentioned before that you're the first female president of the club. Is that accurate?
Esports
I
Club?
can't Yeah, at your school.
No, there was a
Oh, for some
president
reason I thought you
like two
were.
cycles before that.
Before
She
you?
was president. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that's great because as we can see with the
Hmm.
statistics, that's fairly rare. But what
Yeah.
do you think you guys have done to create that environment where not only women are included, but there's women in positions of power? That's maybe the industry can learn something from how you guys run things.
It's basically just like we crack down, like our server, we crack down on like no sexism, no racism, no homophobia, nothing like that. Like, and if someone like breaks those laws, we just delete their message and we have a private conversation with them. Like, we try and like explain that like our club's pretty diverse. We have lots of like
Mhm.
um, trans and like other LGBT members in our organization, and at least we had not have any had any problems with racism as long as I've been president. It's mainly been
Gotcha.
problems with like respecting like people's identities, and we just try and like
Mhm.
have like a dialogue instead of just like instantly banning them. Like maybe just because like
Mhm.
we all go to school together,
Mhm.
and some people just like don't know that we have trans women in our club, and so we just like try and educate them instead of just trying to tear them down.
Right. Well, and that's good. And how do you all make sure, or how do you all incorporate that into recruiting new club members?
We try and really have a lot of photos and like push the casual side. So we try and like have
Gotcha.
photos of like our like more casual events, and that does include like a lot of women
Mhm.
at the esports booth with like I have like an
Mhm.
esports jersey. I like wear my esports jersey, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're on the esports team! Like, let's talk about it." And then they'll be like, "Oh, I don't really like play that much. I play Mario Kart." I'm like, "That's fine. We have Mario Kart tournaments sometimes. We play Jackbox a lot. Like, please join. Like, this isn't. I don't want you to think it's just for the sweatiest of the competitive gamers with the PC. Like, if you don't even have a gaming console, you can join our club."
I like that you guys play Jackbox a
Hmm.
lot. That's what I actually play with my family. Like,
Yes.
even my 60-plus-year-old family members can get so down with Jackbox, which just makes it really fun.
Yeah, it's so like minimum barrier to entry. Like I don't want
Mhm.
anyone to feel like they're not good enough to be a part of the club because like
Yeah.
there's no like skill limit for the club. Of course, you have to try out for the teams, but even
Mhm.
then, like when
Which
people are
makes
like
sense.
hesitant about trying out for the teams, I'm like, I like to remind people the average rank in like games is the average rank for college teams. Like, of course, you have like those UTDs, and they're all like contenders players that are
Right.
like finishing their degree, getting paid to play Overwatch, but that's not the case at every single school.
Right.
So,
Well, I like that focus because I've been trying to find, like, as even as an adult now, I've been trying to find my own place in the gaming industry as someone who is definitely more on the casual side. Totally the Mario Party, Mario Kart mobile game kind of gal. And it seems like a lot of the marketing and opportunities haven't quite reached that audience yet. That could be me not
Mhm.
being in the right channels, but I don't suspect that's the case. But there is some sort of disconnect, I feel like, between
Mhm.
casual gamers and the gaming community at large.
Yeah, I agree. Because a lot of my friends, like outside of like my team, they play like one of my friends, he exclusively plays Pokemon and Switch games. And like I had them
Mhm.
over at my place and they like downloaded the game at midnight and were playing it and like I did not understand it at all. I'm like, I'm going to sleep. And I woke up at 4 a.m. and they were still playing Pokemon. I'm like, we have school tomorrow. Why are you still here? But like those people still exist and they're still like their opinions are valid and they're gamers. And just because they're not playing how you play doesn't make them any less of like a gamer.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, was to talk about that
Mhm.
specifically, is in this sort of imposter syndrome thing where you don't feel like you're in a place where you belong, but the reality of gaming is it's a wide, wide world. And I feel like we think of gaming as just esports, as just the professional events and these
Mhm.
massive productions with high level equipment, and you have to have a $2,000 computer. And it's like, no, we actually all just carry
No.
around gaming devices all the time in our phones,
Yeah.
and things like the Switch are super accessible to all ages, and things like Jackbox are mega
Mhm.
accessible. So, yeah, I like that that's kind of a core tenet, that you guys maintain the competitive scene while also building the casual. I think that's really smart
Mhm.
way of running the organization. Um, so, with that, how do you kind of feel? I mean, you're really in the college scene, since you run a
Mhm.
club too. But how do you feel about the college scene? You mentioned traveling to other colleges or playing other colleges in
Mhm.
tournaments and stuff. What has that experience kind of been like, and what do you see in terms of the inclusivity and diversity aspects there? Sounds like you guys have it figured out, but what about the wider scene in general?
So it's really like I don't want to like speak on every school because I only really
Right.
know the Overwatch scene
Hmm.
barely, and that's like basically based on the like very small subset of tournaments I've been to. But there
Hmm.
have been some women there, and we've talked, and it's definitely I can't speak on like racial diversity really. I can only really speak on gender diversity.
Hmm.
Um, but it's like hard to tell because like some schools like UTD and UNT, they are trying to pull in the best of the best, and it's kind of like a magnet in a way for esports players. They're like, oh, well, if I'm one of the best players, I'm going to play at one of the best schools because they're going
Hmm.
to pay me to do it. And I
Which
guess
makes
that's different
sense.
than what our club does because no one comes to SMU because they want to play on the esports team. It's more of like you play esport, you like want to play esports in college. Okay, like I'm pretty decent. I guess I'll join the team. And
Mhm.
there's like just that's just a big difference. Um,
Yeah,
so
that
some
does
other
make sense.
schools,
Yeah. Go ahead,
yeah. So
sorry.
some
That
other
does make sense.
schools, sorry, some other schools like in the same situation of us, where it's more of like they recruit from the existing student body. They
Mhm.
seem to have I don't want to say better seems like the wrong word, but they have more women than generally than like a UTD where they're paying players on scholarship. And I don't think that's because there's no female gamers at UTD. I think that's just it's just a symptom of 10 years ago where games were just marketed to boys.
Mhm. Right,
Because,
well, and
mhm,
the competitive scene itself is even
yeah.
expanding to more of the all-female Valorant team, and
Hmm.
there's finally some shooters especially out there that are just a little bit less catered to only boys.
Yeah. And I
So,
think like
also UTD is University of Texas Dallas, right?
yes, yes.
Okay.
Sorry. I
For
should have
our
explained that.
I am outside of Texas, as a lot of
Okay.
listeners are, so I wanted to make sure
Yeah,
we are saying that.
they're the program that like every school in Texas wants to be. They get so much funding, they have the best players, a great coach and support staff, a great student I've
Huh.
talked as a student staff there. They're amazing. they also like kind of have a split. They have a truly split like club. Like their club and casual side is completely separate from their competitive teams. Their
Gotcha.
competitive teams are ran more like an actual sport than a
Okay.
club because they have like a
Huh.
coach.
So it sounds like I mean, we all know the college scene is still developing, but
Hmm.
it sounds like there's kind of a lot of self-direction in terms of like how the development is going.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
it's
is that what
very
you see?
school dependent. So
Uh-huh.
if the president of your school is like esports full send, you're gonna have like an overnight, basically, like in a matter of a very short frame of time. Once they start
Mhm.
putting money towards it, it just starts to change everything, and you can get a very top tier program if you start putting money towards it. Especially if your school is like in a
Mhm.
location where it's attractive for many students, because Dallas is very attractive
Yeah.
as
Well,
like
since
esports players. Yeah,
right. There's a bunch of teams headquartered there, so that does make a lot of sense. Um, how do you think that programs can be kind of smart, I guess, about growth? Because in the current environment we're in, right? If every
hmm
school overnight got a bunch of funding to start an esports team, then I suspect that there wouldn't be a great gender breakdown right now.
probably not.
So as more and more schools get money and more schools invest more in esports programs, are there things you've seen at UTD or at SMU or elsewhere where you think, okay, that's a good way of actually attracting and retaining female talent?
I think just having a welcoming environment. Again, like even if you can't control really if someone is better than someone else, you're gonna put them on the team
Absolutely.
over
Mhm.
someone else, absolutely.
Yep.
But even like having like, hey, like we like maybe you're the only woman that's gonna be on our starting roster for Overwatch, but we do have another like a casual side, and we do have more women on that side of the club, and
Mhm.
that can kind of help. Like for me, I'm the only woman on our team right now. Um,
Mhm.
but it's still like an inclusive environment. And like even if you don't trying to find the words, but even if like you don't have like don't pull in like someone that's like good enough to be on the team that's like a woman, you can still like have an environment that's not toxic.
Yeah, very true. I think that's where that support staff role also
Yeah.
comes in. I know I was a former college athlete, and so in
Hmm.
NCAA varsity programs, there's tons of additional people. You have a personal trainer and you have assistant coaches and you have all of that. As schools get more and more funding, I would love to see those positions not necessarily be filled by women because like you said, if someone's
Yeah.
right for the job, if someone's better, they're right for the job. But I
Hmm.
just hope that hiring practices are managed very thoughtfully, I guess. In the same way
Yeah.
that recruiting practices I would hope would be managed very thoughtfully. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting because we're seeing more and more schools get these programs, and it's like, oh God, I mean, that study was published in March. Like, what's happened since March? It's only been 9 months. So hopefully maybe 2022 we get a little more. But I like that SMU that your school has not only had several female leaders, but focuses so much on the casual side. I actually
Hmm.
just feel like that's something and I've said this earlier, but I do feel like that's really missing from the gaming environment in general. Why
Yeah.
aren't things like why do we have everything is high performance, right? Where
Hmm.
is the medium low performance stuff? Where is the fuel for like I don't know, playing Mario Kart? I guess maybe people are still drinking Red Bulls, but do you know what I mean?
I
Like,
get what you mean. I think it's
yeah.
just because, at least to me, video games are, it's basically the companies make them to make money. And when you
Mhm,
have like, they're like, you can play quick play, and like quick play still quick play still uses like your hidden rank to determine an even match. So you're still
mhm,
getting like high quality games, like, or you're supposed to be getting high quality games. But like ranked to me is supposed to be like, oh, try and climb your rank, like prove you're the best. Like,
mhm.
what's the point of climbing your rank if you're just playing games for fun? Like, if you want to get better, that's fine. But when I like get home from school, I don't want to just spend
Yeah.
2 hours sweating and trying as
Yeah.
hard as I can. Like, I understand it's
Being
fun for
yelled
some
at.
people.
Yeah.
I did that for
Mythics.
Overwatch.
Uh-huh.
After you hit that hypothetical made up number on the screen and you get the shiny little icon by your name, then like what's there at the end of the day? You're like, I guess I can play this game better than 98% of players. But am I having more fun? Because I can't even play with my friends. Like, I had to make like you have to
That's
get a new
so
account to play
silly.
with them. It's like I think everyone just like wants to be the best, or they see their streamers playing and they're like, wow, they're so good. If I was that good, the game would be more fun for me. And the
Mhm.
game is not more fun just because you get better.
I definitely think, I mean, it's worth noting that obviously it can be fun to get better at something, and
Yes, it
yeah,
can.
we
But there
all know
comes a
that, but it's
point.
just
Yeah.
like, geez, like why can't there also be a balance? Like maybe Overwatch is the game that you really, really want to get good at, but maybe you also just enjoy like shooting the shit
Hmm.
and playing Halo every once in a while, you know? Why does it have to be so, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like, and even product marketing and all of that. Every Razer commercial, I actually do love Razer commercials and products, but a lot of the so intense. It's like, oh geez.
It is really
What if
intense.
what if you just made a gaming chair and told me how comfortable it is? In addition to the hardcore gaming, this is gonna improve your performance. Like, tell me about the lumbar support or something, you know? Like, bring a little fun in.
I know. I just want like a cozy chair. I just think and most people they're trying to sell their products to, they're just like, is this going to give me an edge ahead of someone else for some reason? Like,
Right.
or or even like a lot of streamers. It's like most streamers are either like insanely good at the game they're playing.
Mhm.
They're super charismatic and they're really good, or they're like super charismatic and like hold a conversation with their audience and they're just fun to watch, or like a
Mhm.
combination of the both.
Do you guys have any streamers in your club?
Um, we do have. There's someone in our club. He does Roblox YouTube videos. He
Oh,
has
that's
like
fine.
he's like 2 million subscribers on YouTube
Huh,
for
that's really
Roblox
neat.
YouTube. Yeah.
That's
Um.
cool. I was wondering
Mhm.
if I didn't know if because obviously, with there being so much opportunity for gaming influencing now, I didn't know if that was worked into the college scene yet. You know, because it's like either you're competitive, if you
Yeah.
make a career out of esports so far, and that's not to say
Yeah.
that these are the only paths, but the
Hmm.
two, I guess, hot paths right now are definitely either playing the competitive scene or being a streamer. So I didn't know. You guys seem to have the competitive and casual and like the actual.
Yeah. I stream like a little bit, but it's not like serious.
Yeah.
We really just like stream for fun. Like I did like I guess Skyrim 10th year anniversary. I love Skyrim. Even though the first time I ever played Skyrim was like 2019 that winter, and I was like, oh my gosh, where's this game been forever? And I did a 24-hour Skyrim stream when like the new version came out.
Hmm.
But other than that, no, that's pretty I think that's like kind of casual.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. I didn't know how that was making it into the college audience yet. If it was kind of it seems like it's still kind of self-driven, which is
It's
fine. The
still
influencing yeah,
self-driven.
the influencing industry in general is kind of, people who are crazy enough to start a business Instagram instead of a personal one. So,
Yeah.
that hasn't been quite mass produced and codified yet, but that's okay. That's fine. I'm sure as gaming gets into more colleges, I bet we're going to see more on that, which will be good. But I want to give a quick summary for the audience, really quick. So, we talked about how there needs to be some sort of better forms of content moderation. Not sure what those look like, but some way of just sort of removing toxicity with more immediacy, I guess is the best way of saying it. Not letting it fester, not letting it go on, but also being open to the people who said toxic things and trying to give them another chance to improve that behavior. When it comes to college esports, I love that you guys focus on both competitive and casual kind of separately. So the competitive players can go and compete, but market a lot to the casual audience and to a really diverse casual audience of this is a place where you can come and have fun. And I would love to remind listeners about the gaming book club because I think that's such a fun idea. And that can be translated to all kinds of audiences across all kinds of Zoom parties. So I think that's so brilliant. And that just must be so fun for you guys, which is cool. And at the end of every episode, 'cause we're wrapping up here, the one thing I like to ask of all of our guests is to do a moment of reflection. And I think this will be really fun to ask you because you are a younger person. So we're talking about a younger person talking to an even younger person. Um, but what is one thing you would like to tell your younger self about getting into the gaming industry and being successful?
I think like what I tell my younger self is like just always try and have fun with it. Like always try and find something to improve and like just keep make sure you like keep fun in the back of your mind because at the end of the day it is a video game. And if you're getting super stressed out over a video game and it's not fun for you anymore, like you can just not play it and it's not the end of the world. Like always just try and like find a passion for it
Hmm.
and don't like be afraid to just, always try and have fun, I think.
I like that that ties in nicely with the whole you don't have to be competitive all the time either. You
Mhm.
can just play things and have a good time and
Mhm.
it can be just that. I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Anna, thank you so much for coming in the
Yeah,
midst of
thank you for
finals
having
week.
me.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking
Yeah,
the
no
time.
problem.
Yeah, and that's it for now, everyone.
Cool.
Make sure you check out all of our other podcasts. If you haven't already, leave us a 5-star rating and review. If it's going to be less than 5 stars, don't leave it or don't tell me. My ego is fragile. But yeah, be sure to check out all of our podcasts drop every Tuesday, and we hope you'll join us for more. So thanks, everyone.